Welcome to Mars Hill Today. This is the program where we look at what matters to those of us who live in the beautiful Mid-Columbia Gorge. Now, here's your host for Mars Hill Today, Pastor Joe Gonzalez.
Hello and welcome to Mars Hill Today. I'm Pastor Joe Gonzalez. It's always a blessing to be with you, pastor at Tucker Road Baptist Church in Hood River. And as you know, Mars Hill Today is all about bringing men and women that are being used of God to be able to bring forth a biblical worldview, to be able to indeed share with you that God is still wanting us to declare Him. For just like in Mars Hill, there was an unknown God that they were referring to, we need to realize that there are people who still don't know Jesus, and He is truly unknown to them. And so we have the opportunity to bring forth the truth of God to people's lives. And we have someone who was here just recently with us is back again, Dr. David Day. He has a chiropractic practice in Portland, and he's been very kind to come, and as you can see, he is playing his guitar.
Yes.
So this is our first truly musical program. Wow. And so it's good. Now the reason why you have the guitar, because let me just remind everyone in case they weren't here the first time when you were with us, you are a doctor of chiropractic care, and you shared with us your testimony of when you became a believer, and I do believe it was not only very early on, but then later on, about 12
years old.
12 years old, that you made your own profession of faith to the Lord, that your father was a chiropractor and also a believer, and you grew up in a Christian home.
Yes.
Your wife, his mother was a registered nurse, and her father was a medical doctor. And the fact is that we talked a little bit about the whole stigma of being a chiropractor, because, sometimes people say that's really more of being a quack.
Right.
Now, and I'm sure that there probably are some chiropractors that are quacks.
Yeah.
But then there's some doctors that are quacks
Absolutely.
too, for that matter.
In almost any profession.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that really we kind of wish weren't in the profession, right? I mean, that's the way it is.
Yeah. And one of the things, the reason why we brought the guitar is for a couple of reasons. Let's explore. The first reason is because you're a worshiper.
Yes.
Hold it. I blew it.
Oh.
Let me think now.
That's
Made a
pretty.
bad switch. I thought factored in. Okay.
All right. So we have, again, Dr. Day, and he is a worshiper. One of the things that I've discovered that he loves to worship God. Like I said before, he has, music playing throughout the entire time that I'm there, and never failed to stop a beat. And then at the same time, he has his guitar with us. And one of the interesting things is not only do you love to worship the Lord God, you and your brothers, I might add, but you actually created this, I mean, you made this guitar?
So this, for people just to understand, this guitar, I took a class through Mount Hood Community College. There's a luthier there. It took approximately 1 year to build this thing. You just buy all the pieces of wood, and you have to learn how to make it. And I look at this. This is the first one. I've built the second one. I'm making my third now. And I look and I see all the mistakes I made, but this is the guitar I play. It sounds wonderful, and it represents a journey that I've been on. It wasn't that many years ago that I kind of stopped singing. It was kind of an interesting thing. My father had a bad stroke. He was in his office when he had a stroke. He almost died, and he still is confined to a wheelchair. My mom now has to take care of him full time. So they're modeling love and care. My father-in-law passed away from cancer. There were a lot of things going on in my life about 6 or 7 years ago, and as you can probably imagine, I'm enthusiastic. I had led worship, had taken a church that was pretty conservative. In fact, we didn't even have a piano. We had bought a piano. Then we went to the more contemporary worship styles, overhead projectors and then video projectors and the whole worship band and all that sort of stuff. And I was fully on board with that. I mean, driving that, believing that that's really the music of the future, and that's really how best to worship God. The problem that started to happen in my heart was as those waves came. And if you're suffering from something right now, God can speak to your heart. But what I found was some of those songs weren't sustaining. They didn't have the depth. They didn't draw me to God. I was questioning God. How did you let this happen? What, you've been working so hard to serve Him, and it almost feels like it's pulling the rug out from under you. And what then, right? And ultimately, the grounding was going back to God, and how He used that. And it's the craziest thing. But my brother's a pastor, and in the basement of his church, they started a bluegrass band. Bluegrass. But it was at that point I was showing up at church and I was sitting and not singing any of the songs. I had stopped leading worship. It was just really, I was really kind of in a dark period of time spiritually, just trying to kind of
sort of in the desert.
Sort of in the desert, if you will. And God used bluegrass to awaken my heart, because what would happen is, and so that was up in Washington, and so I would drive from Portland once a month up to Bellevue and start playing these songs. And in bluegrass, it was a bluegrass gospel band that they did. So some of these songs that I would say I had forgotten about, because when I was growing up, we sang mostly hymns, right? And then the contemporary. And once the contemporary stuff came up, I basically set aside all those hymns, thinking, well, now we'll worship God in new songs and new rhythms and new, that sort of thing. That was really a fresh way of worshiping God. What I found was my heart being stirred by some of the older songs, like Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. Day by day and with each passing moment, strength I find to meet my trials here. Because what these hymns would do is they would point me back to God and His power and His sustaining. And at that point, I didn't even play a guitar. I didn't know how to play a guitar. And I went and bought an electronic auto harp. Because I didn't want calluses on my fingers, because I'm a chiropractor, right? I want to be able to have good finger. I want to be able to feel with my hands. Now, my brothers mercilessly, they gave me so much hassles, because in bluegrass you're supposed to play all nothing but acoustic stuff. And so I came with my little amp and my plastic little thing, but I played it. And in that period of time, God spoke to my heart. And then gradually, then I started saying, well, maybe I could play a guitar. And I pulled out a guitar that I had bought in high school but never played, and I started to learn how to play it. And then my brother took a class, and he found someone who built a guitar, and I said, I want to do that. So I take this guitar building class, really knowing nothing about the guitar. And it represents to me, this is not just, I'm not just playing the guitar. Every time I hold this and I feel the vibration of this thing, it reminds me how God awakened my heart. So I can now sing these songs that, even though I'm not a big fan of a lot of the contemporary Christian music, right? I can now appreciate it, because it draws me to God now, where before it wasn't enough. But it's partly because He reawakened me with some of the and I probably even now, if I had my druthers, I would probably sing nothing but hymns. Now I might get bored by that, but so we have once a month we do a gospel jam where we play and sing these old hymns. And there's nothing like looking out over 40, 50, 60 people, and some of them start to cry when we sing some of these hymns that they haven't heard for 20 years. And we have people playing whatever instruments they play, whether it's a saxophone, a guitar, an accordion. People can come and bring their instruments, and we just start worshiping the Lord. And it's really an exciting thing. So this guitar, for me, is part of my journey walking with God and being called back to Him, and hearing His voice and believing that what He said is true. Because there was a time I was wondering, is that really true?